Hello, my name is Caitlin Goodlett, and my speech will be about the royal disease. A concealed flaw in the royal blood, changed by the course of European royal history, but not by something you would expect, not by politics or by war, but by genetic warfare, which wiped out a majority of Europeans' heirs in the 19th and the 20th century. The purpose of this speech is to inform people about why hemophilia B is labeled as the royal disease. Some points that I will cover about what hemophilia B is, what caused it or what might have caused it or a leading cause of it, and how it affected Queen Victoria's lineage. So to start off, hemophilia B is a genetic disorder that can turn minor injuries such as maybe a short fall or extracting a tooth into serious medical issues such as internal bleeding or brain hemorrhages, which could lead to major blood loss or even in most cases, death. This unique condition affects a person's ability to clot their own blood due to a deficiency in factor IX in their body. But in hemophilia A, which is a different form of hemophilia, which is a more common form, it's deficiency 8 that is the reason why the people can't clot their own blood. So there is a difference between the two. But hemophilia B, this genetic disorder, is a sex-linked trait located in the X chromosome, which means females can only be carriers because there is 2 X chromosomes. So while one may be infected with the genetic disorder, the other one will be able to create enough factor IX to be able to just be carriers. While males, on the other hand, will be able to experience everything and all the symptoms of this rare genetic trait because they only have 1 X chromosome. Some evidence that I found was hemophilia B is a hereditary bleeding disorder caused by a lack of blood clotting in factor IX. Without enough factor IX, the blood cannot clot properly to control bleeding. So that is the whole reason why you can't clot your blood. It's because of either factor 8, which is hemophilia A, or factor B, or factor IX, which is hemophilia B. So what is the major cause of hemophilia B? So back then, in the pursuit of power, many European royal families would marry their own bloodline within their own bloodlines for centuries. They wanted their bloodline to retain pure, and when they did that, they would marry their first cousins, or they would marry off their kids to their uncles, and weird stuff like that. It's kind of bizarre when you think about it, and you look at, as I was talking about Queen Victoria, or what we were going to talk about, Queen Victoria's lineage. It is literally, it's crazy because there's not many branches that don't connect. However, the pursuit of power soon became an obsession for many royal families to keep their royal bloodlines pure. But at what cost would they do this? You know, like, people back then didn't think that this was gonna, affect anything. But it did. This unhinged obsession led to a rare, unique genetic disorders that weakened dynasties such as the Spanish Habsburgs and the hemophilic heirs of Queen Victoria. In an article called "What Are the Effects of Breeding?" written by Effie Shaw, talks about what inbreeding is and the overall impact it has on history. So what technically inbreeding is whenever 2 organisms mate that are closely related by ancestry. And throughout history, inbreeding not only kept traits within bloodlines, but also power, because it was seen as keeping a bloodline pure. As in the Spanish Habsburgs, so much inbreeding went on that the very last heir of the Habsburg dynasty was majorly disfigured and couldn't eat right. I'm pretty sure his name was Charles, but you probably have to fact check me on that. And so did hemophilia in Queen Victoria's lineage. This is the whole reason. Queen Victoria married her first cousin Albert, who was German, And the British royal family is actually more German than they are British because of how interconnected that the two are. So how did this genetic disorder affect Queen Victoria's lineage? Well, when Queen Victoria passed down her crown to her children, she also unknowingly passed down a silent curse known as the rare blood disorder called hemophilia B. This disorder would ripple through the European royal families with marriages of her children, which cursed dynasties and sparked rumors of the quality of the royal bloodlines because of all of the death that was happening because of these rare genetic conditions, all caused by inbreeding because they wanted to keep the bloodline pure, but then it also called into question if it was actually a good bloodline. Queen Victoria reigned from 1837 to 1901. And during this time, she was a central figure in European royal history. She was a central figure, and she also became known as the grandmother of Europe. The reason that she was called the grandmother of Europe was due to her extensive lineage that reached all over the parts of Europe. And she strategically married off all of her 9 children into different royal families of Europe, linking her to the monarchies of Russia, Romania, Greece, Spain, Germany, and many more. The czars were a great example of how hemophilia B affected the line. Alexei, he was extremely sick, and that is why they called for Rasputin. And that's ultimately what caused the downfall of the Russian monarchy. So it's kind of funny how you can connect the genetic disorders to the downfall of some of these monarchies. It's mind-blowing sometimes if you really think about it. And although these intermarriages created a close-knit web of royalty that led to the spread of genetic conditions like hemophilia B. And because there wasn't much change in the genetic variation, this was a great place for genetic conditions to actually pop up because there was no new genetic material for the genetic disease to like disappear in. Like, it was great for genetic conditions if there is no new genetic material. This would later be labeled, and this is the reason why it is labeled as the royal disease, because through Queen Victoria's lineage and how it spread throughout Europe and how it affected multiple of the European royal families and heirs, this is why it was ultimately called the royal disease. This disease had major impacts on the line of succession in which the royal family, these royal families, because all of the male heirs were dying very young and like very, very young due to this disease, which put into question who was going to inherit the next throne. Well, if all of the male heirs are dying, where's the line of succession? Because women weren't really seen as something capable of being queen, though there is a rare case, as Queen Victoria, she was queen, but many royal families were like, nope, female can't do it. So, and ultimately, majority of them couldn't continue, like the Russian monarchy couldn't continue. To kind of summarize what I just said really quickly, so Queen Victoria's lineages played a major role in the spread of hemophilia B throughout royal houses across Europe. This disease spread due to the intermarriages among the European monarchies, and this is ultimately the reason why it's called the royal disease. These intermarriages led to an increased amount of inbreeding to occur, all in the pursuit of pure royal bloodlines and power, which the power was kind of taken away because all these heirs were dying. So where was all this power that they accumulated and worked so hard for? Where was it going to go if all the heirs were dying? Ultimately, the spread of hemophilia B through Victoria's descendants underestimated how the combination of through the dynasties, inbreeding and hereditary disease would cause such catastrophic consequences not just for royal families, but for political fate of Europe itself. Like, it's crazy. And I really do hope that that y'all will go and actually like look more into the stories of all of the daughters and the sons and the people in Queen Victoria's lineage, because through my research, I was able to locate a bunch of stories. And one, I think her granddaughter, who was married off to Germany, to a prince or lord in Germany, had two sons, and both of them died of hemophilia B. And she pretty much went mad. She was constantly depressed because both of her sons died extremely young due to this rare genetic condition that no one pretty much figured out. The last known person in my research to have hemophilia B in Queen Victoria's lineage died in, I think, 1947, but I think he was a lot older, and I think more medical knowledge came about of the disease. So I think that's how he lived a little bit longer. But thank you for listening to my speech.